What's up, guys? Today I got 3 vertical jump exercises that you guys can get started on today. I got my man Chris Staples coming through the house right now for a training session. You should know Chris Staples by now. He's been on our channel a few times, but you've seen him in dunk contests. He's one of, if not the world's greatest dunker. He's definitely the most consistent dunker that I've ever known. He consistently gets down the dunks that he knows how to do. And this guy just consistently wins dunk contests. I mean, he's a freak of nature. Today, I'm gonna get him out of his comfort zone. I know what he's good at. We've done assessments, we've done training sessions. I wanna get him out of his comfort zone. Now, Chris loves that same approach, and he's a scientist when it comes to calculating out every step and getting to that perfect approach. Now, today, I don't wanna just keep adding to that because he gets so much of that in his dunk sessions already. Today, I'm gonna challenge him on his single leg plyometrics because I would like to see him get his one leg bounce up, but is he gonna become a one leg dunker in contest? I don't know, maybe, maybe not. Either way, single leg plyometrics and single leg strength training forces you to start to balance out those legs. So if you're like a right-left jumper and you do that over and over and over again, your right leg gets a lot bigger, gets a lot stronger because there's more time under tension on that leg compared to the left leg. And so for a long-term injury reduction standpoint, you always want to balance out those legs. So even if he's not going to be a dominant one-leg jumper, we still got to do a lot of one-leg work. Now, we're also going to do some double-leg work because you always got to add to their superpower, right? You don't want to just work on their weaknesses. They're there for a reason. You want to continue to build on their double leg jumping ability if that's what they're going to go do in a contest. All right, so on this first superset, all we're doing is pairing together 2 exercises. We're using what's called post-activation potentiation, or PAP. So PAP has been traditionally thought of you only do a heavy lift and then you take 5 minutes off and then you go into a plyometric, right? So it's like heavy to body weight, but the studies also show that it works with any power exercise. So you could use an Olympic lift, you could use a trap bar high pull, you could do what we're doing here. You could do a 20-pound med ball toss as high as we can. Even though it's not a maximal strength exercise, we're still potentiating. We're still ramping up that nervous system and getting the muscles nice and revved up. So now after this brief rest period, when he goes into his regular unloaded jump, he's gonna be able to get a little bit higher.
I got $10 since you ain't get 35.
36.3.
What? That's a lot.
Give me my money. Give me my money.
Zoom in on that. 36.3.
With that Cash App, send it right now.
Joke's on you, I'm broke.
One of the most important things here that I want you guys to understand is the rest period really matters. So in most studies, whether it's a power exercise like this or a heavy strength exercise, and then they back off and they don't take a long rest period, they go straight into the plyometrics, majority of studies shows that that actually decreases the vertical or the plyometric exercise because you're getting this potentiation, but then you're also getting this fatigue. And that fatigue outweighs the potentiation. And so if you feel like you're tired from that first exercise, you need to take longer. You need a full recovery before we then step into that unloaded exercise. A recent study actually compared different resting protocols. So they got done with either a high intensity or a moderate intensity back squat. And before they backed off into the plyometric exercise, then they rested either 15 seconds before the plyometric, 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 9 minutes, or 11 minutes. Basically what the study showed is the 15-second and the 1 minute led to decreased performance. So if you rush in to that next jump, you're actually going to decrease, and there's no point in getting that PAP effect. The study showed that anything beyond 7 minutes also decreased the plyometric afterwards because either they decreased their body temperature, right? They started to cool down because they're resting for so long, or they just lost that potentiation effect. Now, the sweet spot was between 3 minutes and 7 minutes, but it did peak at 3 minutes. So after 3 minutes, it didn't go up, it just stayed the same. So obviously, to make our workouts more efficient, we would want to go with that 3 minutes instead of resting an entire 7 minutes. Now, it also depends on how many reps you did and how high intensity it was. We're only doing 4 reps of his med ball throw. And so for Chris, we're probably only going to rest 2 minutes, and then we're going right into the step up jump for 4 reps each side there as well. All right, so on this med ball toss, right now we're going with a 20-pound med ball, but I want him starting from that bottom position. Now from here, he doesn't get that load up. So an athlete like Chris really relies on that stretch shortening cycle. And that is a superpower, and we absolutely want to train that. But the opposite end of the spectrum is when we take away that stretch shortening cycle and just rely on the raw power and your ability to use those contractile elements. So AKA, we got to muscle our way up, which obviously for these pro dunkers, a lot of times this is their weakness. So we don't want to go overboard with it, but we do want to touch up on their weakness. So he's starting from the bottom position and he's exploding up as high as he can. Now, when he lands, he gets back to his superpower, because remember, he is now landing with additional load. He has 20 extra pounds with that med ball. So now we're challenging that reversal. So when he lands, he has that eccentric load up, and then we hit the amortization phase. So that's the bottom. And then he's got to reverse out to toss it as high as he can. That's what the stretch shortening cycle is all about, is our ability to reverse from eccentric to concentric. And so now we're just tossing the medicine ball as high as we can. It's a very, very effective power exercise. So again, he's going 4 reps, and then we'll take 2 minutes off, and then he's just going in with a 1-step jump, getting as high as he can. Anytime that we can measure, we're using a just jump mat or just reaching for the backboard or reaching for a vertex. That's even better, because then his body will self-organize. AKA, once he starts getting that feedback of the vertical going up, he does better and better and better because he has a goal. But also with biofeedback, essentially what the research shows is your body just organizes itself. So I don't have to sit there and tell him, hey, bend your knees lower or keep your trunk more upright, or I don't have to give him any coaching cues. All I got to say is that was good. That was an inch more than your last one. And then his body subconsciously remembers how he jumped. And so that's a very effective way to improve your vertical jump immediately, is just using what's called biofeedback. And that's just a scientific way of saying add a measurement to all of your jumping exercises if possible. All right, so now we're moving in to where Chris struggles, and that is the 1-leg plyometric exercises. So we're gonna start with what's called extensive plyometrics. So intensive plyometrics are like the depth jumps, you know, the hurdle hops, where it's a short ground contact, you're putting a lot of force in the ground. Extensive plyometrics are a little bit lower level, where you're kind of sub-maximal effort. And so we can handle a little bit higher volume, so more total reps, which is really important when we talk about building tissue quality. So this is how you do plyometrics without getting injured, is you start off with extensive, longer duration, higher rep, but lower intensity, and then we gradually move towards that more intensive plyometrics. So I'm getting Chris through a low-level bounding and skipping series. This is gonna get him to start to balance out that left and that right leg and really get him used to single leg plyometrics. So we're just doing a diagonal bound where I'm going right, right, diagonal, left, left, diagonal. So it's almost like 1-2 Euro step, 1-2 Euro step. Again, this is nothing maximal. I want him going 50, maybe up to 70% of his maximal intent. This should just be light, springy, and effortless. Typically, if we were on a court, we would go full court and back and then rest and then complete anywhere from 3 to 5 sets. His next one, we're just going with a basic power skip. He's not getting as high as he possibly can. I just want him skipping and starting to build that rhythm and get used to these single leg jumps and these single leg landings, because when we skip, we do end up landing on one leg. Now, power skips for max intent, where we're going as high as we can, are also very good. But again, I want to get Chris used to these single leg plyometrics at a lower level, and we'll build up that volume and then gradually progress. All right, and let's move forward to our third vertical jump exercise. Chris is gonna do a barefoot hop. So all we're doing is side to side hops over a line and then front to back hops over a line. He's gonna go for a total of 4 sets of 30 seconds. Now you'll notice that we're taking the shoes off, and that's because if we're on turf, our feet can handle that. Now, if you're on concrete or something hard, you might not want to go barefoot, but if you're on grass or turf, it's a good opportunity to go barefoot and start to train the arch of the foot. That's where we get a lot of our elastic energy, training those intrinsic muscles of the feet. Keep in mind, in basketball, we wear these stiff-soled shoes, and so it takes the stability demands for us. And so our feet can kind of turn off and they become inactive because we have these stiff-soled shoes. Anytime that we can get out of those shoes and get the human foot functioning how it's supposed to be functioning, that's going to be a win for us. So all we're doing is side to side hops, low level. It is going to burn a little bit. He's going to do 30 seconds for 2 sets, and then we're going to go front, back, 30 seconds for 2 more sets. These low level line hops are actually really good for the Achilles, which is huge for jumping, for sprinting, for overall athleticism, especially for somebody like Chris, because this is already his superpower. Chris has a very long Achilles. So you guys have probably seen athletes like Michael Jordan, a lot of really good jumpers, have these small calves that are very high up on their leg, right? So it's like this short little calf muscle, and the Achilles inserts at the bottom of that calf muscle. So if you have a short calf and the Achilles inserts here, then the rest of your leg all the way down to your heel is going to be Achilles. So now the longer that Achilles is, the more we can store and release that elastic energy. Now, there are still jumpers who don't have a long Achilles. It's one of many genetic factors, but this is one of the areas that Chris really excels, and a lot of really good jumpers do have these long Achilles. I actually developed a measurement so that I could start to quantify who has a long Achilles, who doesn't, who has an average Achilles. Chris has an Achilles ratio of 0.60, which basically means his lower leg length is 60% Achilles. Somebody like me who has longer calves, I'm closer to 40% Achilles, 60% calf muscle, gastroc. He's the opposite. He has a long Achilles. So because of the length, he's going to store a lot of elastic energy. These low-level hops are really important for what's called hysteresis. So that's his ability to utilize all of that elastic energy without releasing it in the form of heat. There's a lot of athletes that don't do drills like this, and they go to dunk and they're going to store this elastic energy. But because that Achilles isn't well trained, a lot of that energy leaks out in the form of heat. And so if you can't store and release all of that energy that was stored, then you're not going to have a very high vertical. So low level barefoot hopping exercises like this can be a game changer, even though it doesn't seem like it's that intense. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in today. Make sure you go check out my guy, Chris Staples, one of the best dunkers on earth. You can follow his Instagram, Everybody Hates Chris, or his YouTube, Chris Staples. As always, hit that thumbs up if you like this video. And of course, you gotta hit that subscribe button, because you guys know I got more heat coming for you. Let me know what you guys want to learn in the next video by commenting in the comment section. Until next time, I'm out.